Dinosaurs that once roamed these lands have been long since forgotten and ages ago went extinct. Could you say that is the case for the big SUV? It might well reign true. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, the SUV has definitely adapted over the last several decades, going from prehistoric dinosaur-like sizes to more of a crossover blend. And with that, well, I'm starting to see maybe a less trend for bigger is better, and well, maybe finding just the right fit. So not all vehicles have gone extinct. There's still some big SUVs out there, but could you say, well, the options are being a little bit more limited with the crossover definitely expanding its portfolio. Now, what we have here is the 2019 Buick Envision. It's been out for just a few years and adds another kind of offering to the, well, crossover market that is, well, just getting a lot more full with options. Now, what the crossover does, of course, is make you have a little bit smaller footprint on the roadway and, well, delivers just about the right amount of space on average. Now, comparative to me, I'm a big SUV fan, so when you look at these, how does it truly fit? After all, I'm 6 foot plus tall. I've always said these may just feel a little bit too small for me, but when I climbed inside, well, it became almost cathedral-like and surprising. Now, on the outside for the Buick, again, the crossover segment is just not reinventing the wheel. A lot of mirroring and copycatting across the industry. Now, the profile standard operating procedure, you could say it looks maybe like a Throwback Thursday CRV. It looks like this, that, whatever, but that's just the market and across the board on several niche areas. Now, what I like, of course, Buick has yet to get rid of the good old portholes. As we've seen on the sedans, they're here. We've now moved them up on top of the hood. Otherwise, black all the way across. And this is more of the luxury crossover. No gimmicky small crossover here, but more of the premium, and you note that by the Buick. Now, black all the way down, black handles, a little bit of brushed accents, but pretty much a nice regal approach to a rather otherwise smaller SUV. So how does the Envision measure up in the SUV market? Well, overall, it's about 183 inches. That's just shy of my threshold when it comes to midsize, which typically starts around about 185, 186. So in this case, this crossover technically to me is a little bit on the bigger size in that segment. Now, as for the wheelbase, around about 108 inches. Now, height, about 5.5 feet tall and right at 6 feet wide. Good numbers for anyone transitioning from sedans to a vehicle like this. And you can see this case in point over at Ford, where they're getting rid of all their sedans and going more with vehicles like this that really give a blend of multiple options. Now, another thing to look at is the profile. A lot of vehicles go into kind of a Greek statue-like option, really a lot of chiseling and sculpting. This kind of blending and really not being too kind of wow factor, which is okay because too much chiseling to me just looks gawky. And if you look at the profile, you could say it's a Throwback Thursday all the way back to the Lexus RX 300 in its kind of early days. Really seeing that in the silhouette, really kind of mirroring a lot of the competition, not in a bad way, but maybe just taking the good pieces and putting it all into one. You can also see just some fine designs, even sweeping right through here. So unlike some SUVs like a Honda CR-V in its early days, which pretty much just had straight sides, very mild haunches, this one really having some nice effects in the overall design. One thing crossovers are doing well is delivering that grille warfare, and there truly is a big battle going on when it comes to the various design elements, and Buick definitely steps up their prowess. Now, it starts with, of course, the huge Buick emblem up front, kind of this wing design going on, the waterfall grille. Now, this is where you're going to see a lot more bright chrome up here, standard procedure. If you think back to all their Park Avenues and all that chrome, they definitely have to deliver it. Now, you're going to see black body color on this particular model all the way around. These portholes, just to mention, they're not operational. They're really just for looks. Don't understand why we just couldn't maybe add a little bit of airflow out of here. Also, what you're going to see is a lot of lower fascia. Again, some brushed accents down low. Fog lights really tucked in the corners. Now, one thing to note, really no airflow around here that I see on other vehicles that really tuck through the wheel well and sweeps the air down that way. Really all that's blocked off, so the air's simply going to go through the natural ports that we've seen on a lot of vehicles. Now, one thing to think about is safety. Front sensors here, of course, for parking, get into the tight spots, and that adaptive cruise control, that radar-like sensor up front, really allows you to let this vehicle sense what you're doing, adapt itself, and of course it does have lane awareness, which really has an autonomous feel to it when you get behind the wheel. allows this vehicle to truly know when you're in the lane. Should you maybe veer left or right, it's going to tug in just a hair. We tested it. You can actually go just a little bit of feet down the road, and actually the vehicle somewhat steers for you. Just a nice safety feature, and of course I'll point that out when we go inside. Sweeping to the back, one thing we'll first talk about is the 19-inch wheels at the four corners. A nice brush look when it comes to the chrome. Again, Park Avenues, things I'm used to back in the day, had a lot of chrome blinged out. It seemed to put it into a little bit older demographic. This, of course, starts to cater to a premium market, of course, but maybe a broader spectrum when you start to minimize some of the olderness that we've expected with Buick over the decades. Now, one thing is innovations, and we've always talked about it, starts with a good old key system. Real easy to kind of navigate your way around. Now, what we'll notice is when you put the hand here, not intuitive, is not the one that lets it know you're here, but instead just a simply press of the button. Now, here on the passenger side, that's going to unlock the passenger and everyone at one time. Press it again, locks it right up. Now on the driver's side, it is a two-step process. Unlock the driver, press it again, unlock everyone else. That's a nice safety feature for anyone that doesn't know what's going on, especially at night, someone hanging out in this area. It's really a security feature that allows you really to unlock one door, get inside the vehicle. Naturally, if you're with other people, makes sense to press it again. Now when the vehicle's locked, everything's nice and secure. Now going down here to the Phillip area, one thing you'll notice, not the case. I'm a big fan of securing this area just for the simple fact of, well, I want to put things in there myself, and I don't really want any vandalizing in this area or, well, siphoning of the gas. In this case, it's pretty much open all the time. Just one thing that would be great to improve as some security. Now, as for the cap, they did go capless, and there's kind of an argument out there. Is it better to have a cap or go capless? I'm just going to leave it up to you. One big area for crossovers has to be the, well, coupling of cargo with, well, the people hauling. And that's just something you're not going to get on sedans, because no matter how big you try to make the trunk, you're of course making the vehicle bigger. But in this case for SUVs, naturally you're adding the vertical height that really adds to the overall cargo volume. Before we get there, let's talk about the back design. Now we got some nice stylized rear taillights, a little bit of flare back here. Again, not too much of a wow factor, but decent delivery. Minimized rear spoiler, decent glass, not a huge blind spot or anything, but what helps with that, of course, is the backup camera. Now, as for the operation back here, you do find that this is the handle, of course, nice little press button, and this is a powered hatch. Now, what you can do is, of course, press the button, or you can simply press right here, and it's going to rise to the occasion. And what I like is the operation's fairly quick, fairly straightforward. Even better is the arch here clearly gets up out of the way, especially for my 6-foot+ frame. Easy to get in here, and that's something I find on crossovers, depending on their ground clearance, depending on their overall feel, this can be somewhat low. Now once it's open, what you're going to find back here is decent cargo, around about 26 cubic feet. That compared to an average sedan, which could be 12 or 13, maybe 15 on a bigger one. This really delivering a lot of space. And what you're also going to find is this right here. In this particular model, heavy gauge floor mats, specific even back here to the cargo. And what I like about that, minimizes just the overall wear on the carpet. Something in my own vehicles I've gone through and replaced recently, stripping out the car, putting new carpet. When you start with good mats, good systems, it really minimizes the wear and tear long term. Last thing to really talk about, backup sensors of course, and a backup camera. Really allows this vehicle, even though it is smaller, really allows you to have those extra safety features. Diving into the cargo area just a little bit more, again, this real heavy mat, nice and sculpted, and again, it has a nice ridge here, so any spillage or whatever is pretty much going to be caught. You're going to see this similar matting all the way through the vehicle, even in the second row, really extends from one side to the other. Now underneath here, what you're going to find is a nice lower cargo area. Once you lift it, you're going to find kind of a compartmentalized area, nice and foam, and even better, nice spare tire. But there's a lot of lower storage here. I'm a big fan of carrying tools, keeping things in the car. This little area right here truly houses some things and keeps them out of the way. Now you'll also find some nice anchor points, and this can't be overstated, just the ability to really lock things in. Of course, there's a net you can put here, and you have these handles. Now these handles, obvious what they do. Simply pull here, it tumbles those second row forward, and it's split about a 70-30, 80-20, allows that to tumble forward. Really easy when you're putting things in, you can push them forward, lay this cargo flat real easy. When it comes to smaller vehicles in general, they typically are a little bit more spirited. We all want to get up and go, and typically smaller means, well, definitely got some spunk. That is the case here on this model. Now there are two engines, both of them inline 4 cylinders, one being a 2.5 liter or the as tested 2.0 turbocharged. Now the difference is really 197 horses and 192 foot-pounds of torque on this 2.5, or on the as tested 2.0 liter, well, that's going to be around 252 horses and 295 foot-pounds of torque. And what that basically means, with a little bit bigger engine, you get, well, a lot more spunk. So if the outside really sparked your attention, you said, hey, that's not a bad way to look going down the road. When you climb inside, this is, well, the next level. And it really starts with the luxury, something Buick really is stepping up to the premium on this vehicle. Comes with all the innovations, all the bells and whistles, but at the bare minimum, this seating, the lazy boy like feel, and just the comfort that makes you say, well, maybe I can just downsize, rethink, and, well, cross over to this size vehicle. Now first thing really is the legroom numbers. Thinking smaller, you definitely going to think, well, that here on the inside, and it's just not the case. This vehicle truly fit the bill. Now what you're looking at is around about 40 inches up front, not too shabby in the back, around about 37 inches. But one thing you truly want to look at is all the innovation. One of the first things you notice when you get inside the Envision really is the high gloss inlaid wood right there front and center on the dash. Now there's matching accents right between the front occupants as well, but really sets off the tone. And what I like is a black accent otherwise all the way around the vehicle with the darker wood really makes for a nice kind of blend of the different trim elements. Now if they'd gone with a lighter wood, may have been too contrasty and, well, too gimmicky. Now as you sweep across, really this is where you're going to find the hub of information on the Buick. Now this is a nice touchscreen system. GM has really mastered this, and some other manufacturers have done that as well, but this one really intuitive, really easy to use. Now it all starts with the main screen. Now if you get lost, there's a home screen. That's something I always look for, because sometimes we can lose our way in this system, and really just press it takes you to this screen. Now what you'll notice is there's multiple screens as well, allows you to toggle through it. Now if you're a big iPad user, iPhone user, whatever, you're used to this type of system, so it's real easy to navigate. Now right here on the main screen, of course, all the shortcuts you're typically going to use, right down to just a weather app, allows you to see what's going on. Currently it's raining, tells me right there. Of course I can look out the car just the same, but again, go back to the home screen, go to audio. I like the presets. At one time this system seemed to be a little bit harder to get into these presets. That was on some Cadillacs or whatever, but basically you can always find that. Now if you go back to the home screen, one thing I also like is here, if I need to go to my presets, right there pops open. Something that is just integrated into the system makes it so much easier. Now when it comes to the buttons, pretty much all you have here is the home, your radio shortcut. You can go right to your media, affect your tone, and nice symmetry when it comes to your two knobs for volume, and of course utilizing your menu select here as well. While we're in the upper part of the dash, one thing to talk about really is this analog clock up here. Nice little small niche. Now one thing to note, a little bit hard to read. I'm not really going to refer to it. It's kind of just maybe a heritage-like thing, Throwback Thursday. And the point I'm trying to make is when the lights are off, typically during the day, it does get just a hair darker in that area. Makes it a little bit more difficult to read, as you can see there. Now once I turn the headlights on, a little bit more illumination, but again you can't read the numbers as well as I'd like, but obviously you can see the hands and so on. Now down below is some safety features. Now first off is the parking sensors. In some cases you just don't need it, maybe backing up to a trailering, doing something, whatever, you just don't need it and you turn it off. This here is actually the parking assist. Now what that is once you set it, you basically have this come up on the screen. It asks you what exactly are you doing. Are you selecting the parking type, you know, which way is it, on the left side, is it perpendicular, whatever. Once you do that, it's going to walk you through the steps of allowing this vehicle to really park it for you. I've stayed away from it. I tend to do it myself, but it does work well should you want to do it. And maybe if you're kind of nervous about, well, not scraping up the paint. Now again, over here you'll also find the lane assist. Now what that does is really allow this vehicle to monitor your sway left and right, let's say, keep you in your lane, and you'll see the illumination there when you're driving on the gauge cluster, and you'll also feel it in responsiveness in the steering wheel. Allows the steering wheel to kind of tug left and right as it needs. Now it's definitely not going to drive for you, so going to have to keep the hands on the wheel. Last thing is the auto start function, pretty much turning this vehicle off when it's idled, starting it back up as soon as you get going, and you can turn that off if you need. Now on the passenger side, one thing you will notice on the dash on the upper part is this little shelf. And on any vehicle you may have some leftover space that designers, well, have to do something with, or it otherwise just becomes useless. In this case, well, they made a little shelf. Could it be, well, unnecessary? Well, potentially. Basically, you have a nice shallow area. You could put phones there, but, well, there's no USB chargers, nothing really to hook up. So it really just kind of becomes an area, well, to throw things. Now, if you want to put coins there, it's just going to slide back and forth. Fairly slick area. So at the end of the day, it's just a shelf, an area that's, well, would have been otherwise useless. So they made some use for it. Down below, of course, traditional glove compartment. When it comes to climate controls in this particular model, you do have dual zones, and dual zones have been around forever. Even on my son's 2006 Envoy, he has even the sliders that go up and down. So this is nothing new and definitely expected on a vehicle like this. Now, particularly this one has the digital readouts for both front occupants, allows you to dial in your specific setting. If the passenger wants to go rogue, set their own temperature, obviously they can go down while the driver stays up. Of course, if the driver wants to be in total control, well, he can go back and sync it up. Also, I like the fact that we can heat it up or cool down our seats. Definitely helpful when the extreme winter and summer months, because it just adds a different level of comfort. Now, when it comes to mode select, that's really easy to choose right through the middle. Some vehicles make it so it's on the screen up above, but this really allows you to have all three options: feet, middle, or the window, of course. Really select it right through here, and a few other functions as well around the outside. Gauge clusters are the next thing that are going to be thrown out the window and replaced, well, with more of a digital readout. Now, standard operating procedure really is the analog tack on the far left, but really everything else is digital, right down to the digital readout for speed, both in the needle itself that swings around as you go faster or slower, and of course the middle, which really gives you a number. Now, I had a friend of mine drive this, and he immediately was drawn to the fact about how big that readout was, and it's really just a glance down. Even better, the heads-up display really projects it right in front of the driver on the windshield, of course, gives you all the information, even right down to the radio you're listening to, the station or whatever. So that's going to be up on the dash. You don't have to look down at all, but when you do look down, it's a huge illuminated area. Now, should you need to, the middle display can be changed from speed to other information. You can just scroll down using the control on the steering wheel. Allows you to get a lot of up-to-date information. One big feature on any vehicle, of course, is tire pressure. This one allows you individualized attention, lets you look at each corner to know what the tire pressure is and make sure everything's really where you want it to be. And as you scroll down, you can just look at all the different aspects that you can put in the middle. But truly what I like is what the speed I'm going is. It's nice and big. Now, this is interesting. You can obviously look at the speed limit in the area in case it's not posted. How many times have you gone on the road, can't find the speed limit sign, wish we knew? Well, based on where you are GPS wise, it's going to tell you. Now in the backyard, well, there's no speed limit. On the right side of the steering wheel is that toggle I mentioned about being able to change the LCD readout in between the gauge cluster, letting you change the various information. Up here is the select for the radio, go up and down, as well as the volume. Now on the left side really all relates to cruise control. Now you do have the standard setting, turning it on. Also a heated steering wheel shoved in the middle of here, so don't get confused if you accidentally press that setting to cruise and everything heats up. What I also like is your distance control. Press that, and what you'll see on the gauge cluster is letting you know how far the gap adjustment is when you're in traffic and your cruise control is on. Lets you really set the spacing. If it's a lot of traffic, you want to be a little bit closer, a little bit further away, whatever it's there, really allows you to set it. Between the front occupants, you're going to find a very huge console, and it's divided down the middle. You could argue that this is really dividing where people's elbow space is, so basically stay on your side of the line. It also divides, well, to flip open and it'll reveal what lies beneath, and what you're going to see is a fairly huge center console with a lot of storage. Also 2 USB connections, as well as a standard power supply down there. Now beside the gear shift, you're going to find dual cup holders, nice little grippers in there, really holds your drinks quite well, as well as this nice little void here. I found that it really holds your phone quite well, keeps it from sliding around, and I wouldn't suggest putting anything else down there because it's quite cavernous and, well, you pretty much have a hard time getting it out of there. So I talked about the cargo mat at the back and how it protects the carpet, but let's look at the second row here. What you're going to find is a nice long runner from one side to the other. Nice and rubberized, something you don't see in a lot of premium vehicles. Sometimes they got cloth here, it absorbs the moisture, the rain, whatever. This one, nice and rubberized, has all these gripping areas, keeps any moisture right here on the mat. Even better, right there in the middle, no traditional hump. Basically meaning when 3 people sit back here, there's a good place for everyone to find a place for their feet. No fighting, and basically that means you can find enough room for 3 people to truly sit back here. Now I talked about the dual zones up front, but I didn't really give you the full picture. Basically this is a tri-zone system with the back seat drivers really able to set their comfort, even from fan speed, temperature select, and heated seats. There's also connectivity with the power supply here and USBs. Now what's great is this small vehicle is doing so much better than bigger SUVs that don't deliver this airflow back here, because what's great is the airflow is positioned right here on this back of the center console, right where people need it, versus on the floor or somewhere else that's just going to get blocked. Now as for the overall seating back here, what you'll find is a somewhat traditional bench, easy folding seats, but really nice comfort, nice and padded, not rigid at all, really allows people to find their comfort. Now again, there's not going to be a hump there on the floor, so the center passenger really is going to find comfort there just like the outer passengers. Now you also will find a nice center console here in the middle, nice armrest, and what you'll notice is it has nice height. That means it really falls where you want your elbow to lay, and of course dual cup holders to boot. Last but not least is your ability to see what the weather looks like, and if you can't figure it out from looking around the 360 panoramic view, well, you can always look up and see if it's raining. And one thing I suggest is not open it on a day like this, but it definitely lets a lot of light in. Now as the rain starts to fall, we definitely have to close out on this edition of Road Warrior and cut it just a hair short. Again, this is the 2019 Buick Envision, and what we like is, of course, that spirited engine, but either really delivering just enough horsepower, because after all, we're not delivering a dinosaur to the road, but rather a refined automobile that a lot of people are, crossing over to. And what you're going to find on the inside is decent room that really seems to be unexpected, something the crossovers are truly stepping up. No longer is the second row just kind of a knee-bleeding experience. It really is actually deciding to haul people. Even better at the back end, coupling it with that cargo, which is unparalleled and unmatched when you look at sedans. Now as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior, and as the rain starts to fall, we say have a good day, and don't forget, always keep your eyes on the road and hands on the wheel.